Let's do an audio check. Can everybody hear me?
Mr. Mayor Council, we are live on YouTube.
Okay, I'd like to call this legislature meeting to order on 2 o'clock, April the 21st. Everybody's had a chance to take a look at the agenda. I'd like to get a motion to adopt the agenda, please. Councillor Rudick, is there any additions or deletions to that agenda? I don't see anything about a corn maze on here. Councillor Berry, did you want to talk about that today? Cliff, go ahead.
I thought it was going to be in a different format.
Oh, okay then. I didn't know that. Okay, thank you. So, no other comments. So all those in favor of the agenda as presented? Thank you. Has everybody had a chance to read the minutes? Looking for a motion to adopt the minutes. Councillor Waters. Is there any errors or omissions within those minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Thank you. So first up, Mr. Rowe, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Town Council. At this time, I would like to introduce Adam Denine on your screen there and welcome him to the town of Vegreville. He has accepted the new position of part-time occupational health and safety advisor. He is on a contract term position until December 31st, 2021. Adam comes with us. His full-time career is Edmonton firefighter. He lives here in town with his wife, Erica. He has a wealth of knowledge in OH&S, in the OH&S industry with a lot of oil field background. He's also a member of our volunteer fire department. So at this time, I would like to welcome him and introduce him to all of Town Council.
Go ahead, Adam.
Thank you, Mayor McPhee. And it's great to see everybody on council there. It's nice to meet. It's nice to meet every one of you, and to see you. Like Phil said, I've been involved in safety now for probably 5 or 6 years. University education in it, and been working in the oil field for quite an amount of time with it. And my wife, she works in St. Paul, and I work in the city full time. But so we've decided to make Vegreville our home. We like it here a lot. Just plan on doing a great job for the town here. So thank you.
Well, on behalf of everybody, Adam, welcome on board. And we want to thank you for all the time that you put in with the fire department up to now, and look forward to your safety messages and getting out and passing your knowledge on to our staff.
Thank you very much.
Anybody else have anything they'd like to comment with Adam? A thumbs up by Councillor Lemko, former fire chief. There you go. He's all about safety, Adam, so you can't get much better than that.
Perfect. Thank you.
Welcome aboard, Adam.
Thanks, Cliff. Thanks for having me here.
Okay, Phil, you get anything else you'd like to put in? Words of wisdom or?
Just so you know, Adam and I went through the 2019 internal audit in a lot of depth, and Adam has come up with a 2020 action plan that is required by Occupational Health and Safety Alberta and our accrediting body, AMSA. So that plan has been forwarded to SMT for review, as it'll affect all the departments. But once SMT's reviewed that, we'll have some discussion, and then that'll be broadcast out to all staff on what goals we'll have for 2020 and how we're going to move together towards achieving all those health and safety goals.
Thank you very much. And again, Adam, welcome on board and looking forward to working with you in the future.
Thanks, Mayor. You too.
Okay, thank you, Phil. Next up is Dale Lefebvre.
So yeah, Adam, you can leave the meeting now if you so wish.
Okay. Awesome. Nice to meet everyone. Have a good meeting. Goodbye.
How about now?
A lot better since you took off your grandmother's headphones.
Yeah, I got these at Walmart. I'm surprised they don't work. That's crazy.
That's when Walmart only had 30 people employed internationally.
Okay. As I was trying to say, is the items that I have will be under director's highlights or will be in closed session.
Okay. Well, then we'll go to Paul Casey.
I just have to take them off every time I'm on the phone.
Yeah, whatever I have will be in director's highlights as well, but I think Phil had an item that you passed over, which was a VTAB board member appointment. Unless I'm looking at the wrong agenda, but it says April 20th.
You know, I read that earlier. I don't know what this one here is. I did read it on a different agenda. Okay, so sorry about that, folks. That's my mistake. I must have two agendas here for some reason. Phil, you can go ahead with your VTAB.
All right, thank you. There's a recommendation that will be coming to Town Council from the Vegreville Tourism and Advisory Board, effective January 20th, 2020. That's a tough one to say. VTAB Economic Development Representative member Franco Mattina resigned from the board due to a change in his employment. At the April 20th, 2020 tourism board meeting, Donna Williams has an application to become a member of the board and was discussed. Currently having no vacancies for a member at large on the board, the tourism board would like to move Len Bullock, who is a member of at large, his appointment to the economic development representative, and recommend that the tourism advisory board and the town council appoint Donna Williams as the member at large representative to the board. Both of these, well, the one addition and the one change are both within bylaw 1019, section 4.3. So this will be coming as a recommendation to town council next meeting.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Borba.
So first off, I just wanted to apologize. I think I might have been the delay for the updated agenda item there. They were waiting on me to sign in. We were on FCSS meeting till just a few minutes before, so I do apologize for that. I just wanted to say that Donna has sat in as an observing member for our last couple of meetings, and she seems really excited about coming forward. So we had unanimous support for the question in regards to accepting her. So I just wanted to share that.
Okay, well, I'm sure that that'll be a big asset on the board, and I know that the board has a few challenges right now trying to attract tourism opportunities to town, but they won't last forever. So does anybody else have anything they'd like to comment on the appointments? Seeing none, we'll move forward. Thank you very much. Mr. Cliff Cragg is up next.
Okay. Over the last few weeks, I've helped Sandra and a couple others produce a letter of support to Alberta cabinet ministers. And this was in support of our funding our Southeast 17 project, as the province was asking for shovel-ready projects. So on Friday, Janelle Saskew had arranged for an introductory telephone call for me to meet a potential investor from Vegreville. Janelle had met this individual about a month and a half ago before COVID hit, and they had a tour of Innotech. He's very interested in building a hemp decortication plant in Vegreville. Was very impressed with the Innotech facility. So we had a call on Friday just as an introductory call, and very good. He's sending me some information. He sent a little bit to me on Monday, and he's going to be sending me some further information. So COVID-19, we are operating under the guidelines, continuing with social distancing and remote workplaces. I've spent a considerable amount of time reading through the abundance of material which has been produced on this topic. So I've also attended a few virtual town hall and teleconference and webinars over the last couple of weeks. And I see on the agenda, I was supposed to introduce an email I had received regarding Shannon Stubbs' private members bill C221. I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself there. And the private members bill is in your agenda. So, okay. So it was asked to be placed on today's legislative meeting, and I'll leave it at that. I don't have anything else to say on that. So.
Okay, so Councillor Morwell, maybe you could update us on this private members bill. I think it's the fact that some smaller or medium-sized oil companies will be able to issue some flow-through shares and be able to get taxable receipts through it to help some of these companies with some of the orphan well programs to get some people back to work. Is that the gist of this bill?
Sure. And just if I could give you one thing, I just got a text. I don't know if you received it from Councillor Lemko. They have just had a fiber issue. He's just got a call from TELUS, so he is attempting to get it worked on and back on. He anticipated I was up to talk next, so he sent that off to me quickly. Yeah, so in regards to the private members bill, it doesn't act counterintuitively to any of the provincial or federal announcements. It was one specifically in regards to basically, they call it the orphan wells, but it's more about prevention from abandoned wells becoming part of the orphan well program. It has gone out to all municipalities because even smaller ones that don't have, like for example, Vermilion actually has one well within its limits. We don't. However, essentially our funding partner that we work with is counties, and obviously the more stress put on them, the less funding dollars they have as well to put forward. So in case of this private members bill, it does not put direct dollars in pockets. It is in regards to basically allows a direct flow through share to be attached solely to the amount of work that's done on the reclamation. So it's not open to large producers. It's only for small and medium, and the dollars attached directly to the work that would be done. So it's not an incentive, it's not a kick-in, but the idea is the more that stop going from the abandoned wells into the orphan wells also helps the counties in regards to their, first off, not seeing reduction in their tax assessments. It also hopefully, stops some of the problems. It's not helping the direct farmer and it doesn't pay a county. It really is to just stop the addition of more into the Orphan Well Association. The other thing is it has a targeted timeline, so they've only got a 6-month process, so it's not an unlimited attached to it. And, there's a whole bunch of information. If anyone has a specific question, I can give it to you. But basically, that's the side of it, is that it's an incentive that's supposed to stop it end up being where it's going to cost the taxpayers the current amount, which is considered to be between $30 and $70 million. Of course, now you've heard there's been some energy announcements from the federal government, but I can tell you I was privy to being able to be on a call with Minister Savage, and there are no details out about those announcements as far as where the funding goes, whether it'll go to Orphan Well Association, whether it will go to provinces, or whether the individual producer will be able to apply. So this PMB isn't being pulled from the books right now. It's still considered active. Most communities the size of Vegreville that don't have active wells, what they are writing, and I could send a sample letter, but what they're writing is basically they support any initiatives that are helping to improve environmental standards and place less stress on their neighboring municipalities and MDs.
Go ahead, Councillor Barry.
Yes, I was wondering, does this letter come down for receive and file at regular council, or are there any actions that we need to take associated with it?
Well, I think what we're going to do is we're going to have a motion that we're going to support this bill, or we're not going to support it. So, and we can't do that at this meeting. No. So it's here. If you guys would like to go spend some time, and if you have any questions, you could phone your MP's office. I'm sure the staff out there would help you. If you would like to buy some shares in these small oil companies and buy some flow through shares, and you'll get a tax write-off. Okay, thank you very much. So moving forward, where are we next? Whoa, my items. Wow. Okay, well, I have a question that was brought to me today by a group of seniors in a development in town. They were told by their landscaping contractor and snow removal contractor that he will no longer be allowed to do the work, mowing the lawns, cleaning up around their facilities, because the town will arrest him. Now, I don't believe this is true. If him and his co-worker are more than 6 feet apart when they're mowing these lawns, as long as they're not in the residence, I'm sure that we wouldn't arrest them. Is that correct? Phil, are you with me?
Yes, that's correct. Again, this is very open to interpretation. The way the workers are, they want to practice the most physical distancing they can, but there are workers that have to work in closer spaces. We obviously try to give them the benefit of the doubt that they're going to be distancing themselves as best as they can throughout their work.
Okay. Well, luckily I gave her the right information.
Your worship, Dale has a comment.
Oh, go ahead, Dale.
If my grandma's headset's working now.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. There's a switch down here you have to turn on. Anyway, in Eastern Canada, some of the municipalities there are basically deeming that type of service as essential if it's for seniors or those that aren't physically able to cut grass, landscape, weed, whatever. So they're allowing it. They're just asking that payment be done by e-transfer, check in the mailbox, money in an envelope in the mailbox, so they're not touching back and forth. So it's already happening in the eastern part of the country where it's already summer, basically.
Maybe at some point we'll have to determine within our own municipality what we determine to be an essential service. moving forward and we can put a list of them out so people will not be phoning. This lady phoned the town hall a couple times and then she phoned myself. So maybe we can look at something like that if this keeps going for much longer. So,
Right.
Last night, Cliff and myself were on a town hall with a couple of different ministers, and I asked a question of Minister Panda regarding our ISIP grant, and was told a very unique answer that it was too bad about the taking so long because the government changed in Alberta, but his office was going to get back to me today with an answer. So we're still waiting, but I'm sure they will. The other topic I have is that I sent a message to the mayor of Colchester County, Nova Scotia, late Sunday afternoon, and a couple of councillors that I know personally, the Deputy Mayor Jeff Stewart and Division 8 Councillor Tom Taggart, on behalf of the citizens and Council of Vegreville, expressing our thoughts and let them know that our prayers and stuff are with them at this time. So. But I'll let you know that I took care of that already. So, okay. So next we'll have the councillor. Oh, go ahead, Cliff.
We also have the solid waste agreement under your section.
Oh, okay. So, and we can just deal with that right here is what you want to do, right? Good. So you are aware that we're trying to enter into a 5-year agreement with the county on solid waste agreement where they are become just a customer. So we've put forward through our committee what we thought was more than fair. And they got back to us when they changed the name from solid waste to solid waste and a recycling agreement. So we have since, I've talked to the Reeve and told him that at no time was that ever discussed that we would change the name. We do not feel that priced into this agreement is the cost of recycling for county residents. He said he was going to take it back to his council, and now their CAO has got back to Cliff with the answer that I may have reassured them that we were not going to bring it up with their citizens again about the recycling, but I was not willing to put it into writing that because moving forward during the agreement, 5 years, it'll be a different council, and we don't even know how long really we can afford to keep the recycling level that we're at right now with the changes in the world. So that has been their latest comeback, I guess, to us, is that they would like something more solid in writing that we are not going to someday try to charge their residents for recycling. So anybody have any thoughts on that? Councillor Rudick, I thought you might.
I'm just curious why the wording is heavy on the thought of protecting county residents. And of course, our interest is protecting town residents. If we're bearing the cost, it's confusing to me why, if recycling isn't important, why they would even be concerned about protecting it for 5 years. That seems counterintuitive as an argument. The other part I'm confused about is if we just receive confirmation that we have grant funding for future operations at the landfill and potential upgrades in terms of waste to energy, et cetera, it seems like a strange time to wordsmith and include recycling if it is not important to county residents. So I'm just at a loss here. I'm not really sure about the logic in that argument. In fact, I don't think that there is logic.
Okay, anybody else? Councillor Warwa.
I guess I would have to say that I definitely fall in the same line as Councillor Rudick on this one. I think that we were very accommodating, tried to do everything to move forward with an agreement. We have been told before that there was no, unless I'm mistaken, that there was no partnership or major, agreement when it came to recycling. But I mean, we're not going to, in my mind, I wouldn't be supportive of us putting forward to say those types of things, because I would say the exact same thing. If we've been told that the reason they're not willing to be involved is because it's not important to them. So if it's not important to them, then we wouldn't be putting in writing. And I know we always want to work cooperatively, but we have to look after our residents. And I feel like quite often we're being asked to sacrifice ours for theirs.
Okay. Councillor Brodziak.
A few years ago, we had tried to initiate a joint town solid waste committee. And at that time, there was no interest from county council to be members of that committee. So I think maybe if it seems that they are interested in the recycling factor now, that we maybe extend the invitation again for members of county council to take part in the solid waste committee, so that they would have some input and possibly have a greater understanding of the costs that the town bears regarding the recycling.
Well, I can tell you that's probably not acceptable. They don't want anything to do with being in a meeting. They just want to be a customer. The fact that they threw recycling into the name of the agreement is what the problem is right now.
Mm-hmm.
They would, and I've told them our stance is we do not want to invite more county residents to bring us the recyclables because it costs the taxpayers of Vegreville money. So for them to put a statement out that they have signed a landfill and a recycling agreement with the town, I think it would just open the floodgates where really, they're not partners. They're not even a customer in the recycling. They just to leave it there. So go ahead, Councillor Barry.
Yeah, I'm basically in agreement with what's being said. From my recollection of it here, it seems that they're not particularly interested in any cost associated with recycling to them. So by sliding the name in there, I think they're endeavoring to get free recycling. And I don't think most of our residents don't even actually realize that we don't make money from recycling. It's something that is just appropriate to do. So unless they are going to be putting some funds into it, we can't just keep accepting their recycling. So I'm not really certain how we can guarantee anything for 5 years when things could change drastically in the next few years.
Exactly. Councillor Waters.
Them sliding that recycling word in there, maybe they're now seeing the importance or understanding the importance of recycling. And maybe back to them, that might be a budget item for them to discuss come the time. I don't know.
Well, I can tell you that we spend over $500,000 on recycling. And when we had the conversation with their delegation, we were told that, of course we do, because we always spend too much money and try to do the best job we possibly can. So I can guarantee you that as far as being involved in recycling or making it a budget item, they're not anywhere near interested in doing that. And I can say that because I know they're not. So we either let this go and try to come up with a different plan for the landfill use from their residents in the next 5 years, or we'll have to go and tell them that we're no longer willing to take them on as a customer the way it stands today, because we can't guarantee we're going to have $500,000 next year to operate the recycling plant. We don't know that. So if we were to lock into a 5-year agreement saying that we were providing this service to their residents when we're not actually charging them for anything, doesn't make any sense. So I think we'll just throw it back into their court that if they would like to have a 1-year extension on the current contract that we have with them regarding the landfill, as they look at another possibility to set up their transfer stations or whatever they need to do. But as it stands right now, the council is not willing to change the name from landfill agreement to landfill and recycling agreement. Because that's the only thing that's holding us up, is the tag to it, is the name. And we never once were negotiating a recycling with the landfill agreement. Councilor Rudy.
And just to go back, I feel like we're having a little bit of Groundhog Day type discussion here, but the previous iteration was solid waste committee, with the idea that you cannot separate those two items from one another, or compost, I guess. There's a number of different items that waste that leaves your home or your business needs to be dealt with. For that reason, it's all or nothing. And then we peeled out that separation, and to have it put back in right now seems very confusing to me, particularly since the pushback, as you've accurately captured, was not from our end, except to protect our residents and the costs that we're bearing to be good stewards of the environment and of a facility that is used by many people for many years to come. And for that reason, again, I think if we're going to be decisive moving forward, then we need to be partners in something that mutually benefits us, not continue to change the name and try to get something for free.
Exactly. We used to call it a solid waste agreement, but when they became just customers, all they wanted to be, it became a landfill agreement. And that's what we negotiated. This last go round was a landfill agreement. We didn't negotiate a landfill and a recycling agreement. So Cliff, I guess what you can do on behalf of this council is get back to the CAO for the county and tell them that I know that they are not willing to sign this if the recycling doesn't stay in, and neither are we. So that if they would like to work under the former agreement for 1 more year, while they set up their alternative situation with the transfer station, that well, we'd be more than accommodating with that. That's what we can do. We've tried our best, and they've changed the playing field a couple of different times now. So we need to stick to what we negotiated. So.
I will do.
Okay. I have a little message from the people at Cromtech. I talked to Jackie yesterday, and he just wants us all to know that their plans are where they always were. The next time they come into town, they'll be bringing a bunch of masks that they've imported from China. And they would like to know if there's any departments within town that need some masks. They'd like to make a donation to any place within the town of Vegreville. We need 10,000 masks or something, face masks. They're willing to donate them. So I told them to let me know the next time they're coming to town, and we will set up something, a meet and greet with them. So, but for now, it's all status quo, just on hold. So,
Mr. Mayor, if I could, I was in contact with Murray from Cromtech, and I thanked them for the opportunity for the order. And I did place an order based on the needs of our departments.
Okay, excellent. So that's what I have right now for this meeting. We will start with some councilors' reports, or some round table, I guess we'll say it. We're going to start. I don't know where Councillor Lemko ends up on your grid, but he's dead center at the bottom of mine. So working his way up to the top. Go ahead, Councillor Lemko.
All right. Well, some fiber issues at my house. TELUS is working on right now. So if I drop out, it's because of that. But just an update from some of the things that I've been involved with, the library board and the meetings with the Zoom chats with the library. An update on the last meeting we was a couple of weeks ago, where they they're laying off all the staff except Donna. And some thoughts on when to re-kick the library again will all be dependent on the restrictions by the province. So we've got targets set in for July 1st, September 1st, and then January 1st of 2021. And those are all tied to budget. But on the good side of this, yesterday we got a letter from the government indicating that the importance of library and for the people, that half the funding that they've said was coming, half the funding that they said is coming now, and the balance of the funding from the government will come in the fall. So that was a concern of ours with the budget, was that if there was no money available to us, that they could pull it. But now it sounds like the money's coming, so half of it will be here, which is great. It might help us move closer to starting as soon as we get the restrictions are lifted. Aside from that, Donna at the library continues to work on e-resources and assisting people with that, and counselors and people reading stories. And she's asked that if there's any other counselors that would like to participate in storytelling virtually. So the challenge goes out to council to pick up a book and read to the people of Vegreville. We had a tourism advisory board meeting yesterday, and I'll let the chair, Tina, speak to that, and I'll chime in and assist if there's anything that's needed to add to that, Tina. So Go East meeting was today, a Zoom meeting. And that meeting Kevin's on the tourism board, and so he brought both to the table there. So once Tina talks about the tourism aspect, we'll be able to assist with that. An FCSS meeting today talked about some of the initiatives that are coming out of that office, and I want to emphasize the importance of FCSS and the work that those people are doing behind the scenes and for the citizens of Vegreville. I know income tax program is huge, and it's been a huge impact on the people that need it the most to get their income tax done, so they can qualify for some of the funding that's tied to their income tax, even though it's been extended, but to them, it's important that they get their income tax done. So they did some good work there. Kudos to them. And some of the other work that they're doing. And again, today's meeting, Tina was fortunately enough to chair that one as well. So Tina, I'll let you chat on that. I don't want to steal your thunder. One thing I did want to say was a lot of the seniors in the community right now are feeling isolated and shut in. And if there's something we can do as a council, whatever that is, communicate from us to them that we can hang in there that says we're with you or something like that. I think it'd be important. I know I talk to my mom 3 times a day, and she's one of the shut-ins. And kudos, Muriel, for all your work you do with that group of people in there. But I think there's probably lots of a need there from our perspective as council to tell them we care in some capacity, whatever that looks like. And that's all I have to say.
Okay, I'll give you an update. Last night on the Mayors and Reeves town hall with Minister Madu, Minister Panda, and Minister McIver. Minister Madu announced the funding for the library, which he feels his department, it feels very strongly about what the job that libraries do and some of the sources and some of the things the libraries are doing today. So he did confirm that funding will be there. So, okay, Councillor Barry, what are you hearing?
Well, I don't have a lot to report in this format, actually, other than that I think that with the weather, it's actually good to see people out and walking around. Most of them, I think, are doing it appropriately. So I'm looking forward to the grass turning green. I'll talk later.
Okay, Councillor Brajak.
Okay, our Chamber of Commerce Board meeting, the last one had been canceled, but the chamber office is opened. Michelle the chamber manager, is working off-site, and she's been quite busy making sure that service is definitely available to all the community businesses. Our Economic Development Board meeting is scheduled for tomorrow evening. We are still looking at a signage project, as well as the wayfinding project, which is signage within the town of Vegreville. And so we'll be doing our Zoom meeting tomorrow evening. And also I want to report on the mayor had offered that the mayor and town council would be offering congratulations and sort of a little parade next Wednesday at 2 o'clock for one of the Homestead Lodge residents. She'll be turning 100 on Wednesday, April 29th. So if anybody else would like to join in this parade, it'll be Wednesday, April 29th at 2 p.m. Where we'll bring, the mayor and council will bring greetings on behalf of the town. So I'm looking forward to that. And that is all I have to report on.
I'll bring the hockey stick so we can stay 6 feet apart.
Okay.
Also, regarding chamber news, there's going to be something, or are you going to report on that, Councillor Warwa? Oh, so the chamber's put together a question and answer session for Friday at 1:30 on a Zoom meeting, and people can chime in. It's going to be our MP Shanna Stubbs, our MLA Jackie Hominick, Reeve Roger Konechny, and myself. So stay tuned. It could get interesting. Next up, Councillor Warwa.
Okay, so I think obviously I'll give a full report when for downstairs, our next meeting. I guess not technically downstairs, but just to give a little bit of an overview. And again, Councillor Lemko, if you want to jump in on any part of this one here. With our tourism meeting, of course, it's a little bit different. Different people had to join in. It was our very first one that was done that way. However, we went through a number of different items, and what we looked at was some of our existing programs and tried to want to be able to put forward a recommendation back to you guys what our advice was of what we thought we could go ahead and then be able to get some, council feedback on it. We had talked about our mural sponsorship program. We know that right now is not the time to be asking people to do any kind of fundraising campaign. Obviously, if there was a business or group that wanted to reach out to us and wanted to still, donate in some way, something like that could be worked out, but they weren't looking to want to actually do it as a campaign. But we were talking about the possibility of still seeing, because there was budget that was there and areas that we would save. There is some interest in, and we'll be bringing forward kind of for final approval from you, but the thought of maybe going ahead and finishing off our mural. So it's the remainder of the extension of the one that is down by Synergy, the small one that would be extended off, sort of something nice that could go ahead, wouldn't cost additional funds. But at this point, that would be something we'd be looking at needing to fund out of our existing budget versus reaching out. So that's one thing we're going to be bringing forward for some discussion. We also talked about the art walk. There is still some interest in being able to, still run some of these programs. They may look a little bit different. They may be a virtual that people could tag on to, or they may even be where some businesses are willing to still have them in their windows. We just want to be cognizant of not planning anything that could drive people to going uptown and suddenly being in groups. But there is a real strong push from Travel Alberta, from all the tourism departments, to still do what you can without it costing a bunch of extra finances. So that is still looking at going. At this point, the community-wide garage sale, we have had strong messaging from the province and Travel Alberta again, not to be saying canceled on items, unless to always try to use the positive side of it to make it more postponed. Even if you're postponed we're postponed till 2021, it's just a little bit of that circling around all of our messaging not being so negative, and not us as a town, but overall. So right now we are postponing, of course, the community garage sale, and we may piggyback that on another event if something does come up. further along. Same with like our movie premiere and a bunch of our events. Many of them are just a wait and see. So I know this is a little bit more detailed report, but I just kind of wanted to let everyone know that that's a little bit of what we have going in that way. And we did go through our top 20 and 20 campaign, and there are several of ours that are unknown at this point as well. But so that you know, the brochures were already printed, and Kevin had indicated that they are looking at still putting them out there with some updates. They're looking at different safe ways to have those brochures put out, including wrapped, like you would see some that are wrapped in the plastics, and maybe with little updates, but it's still a way of letting people know what was going on in the communities. And some of it still may go, and I think most people can understand that part of it. So just before I jump on to another one, Gerald, is there anything else you want to add just directly on the tourism? Because you had the Go East as well.
Yes. One item that I want to, from Kevin's perspective, was he did have a meeting with Jackie Homiuk yesterday, and they talked about today's the Rural Caucus meeting. I believe it's on right now. Discussion was there about the tourism strategy plan that they had said was coming out, and all the money that was going to be spent in tourism in the next, I believe it's 10 billion, if not, I'm not mistaken, in the next 10 years. But the rural Alberta was not part of that, that initiative or that strategy at this point. And then when we met with Assistant Deputy Minister shortly after the Global Forum there, and she was new to the portfolio, and the strategy wasn't anything to do with rural Alberta. So we're on our own with this. Their target is the international traveler, which should change now because of certainly this COVID. But the Alberta traveler is already a captured audience, and they do it anyway, so they're not worried about that group of people. So he did talk to Jackie about that, and today in the Rural Caucus, they're going to talk about rural initiatives and something we need to think about, how we differ rurally for tourism and the importance of tourism for this area. So that's just one item I want to bring up.
Yeah, so the other thing to that we, I guess, want to throw to you guys right now, because it's something that might come on us, we have to think about it, is they're talking about the fact that with our numbers being a little bit different, that there is a possibility that in different parts, they might be lifting some restrictions rurally at different levels. And so the council is aware there is some tourism push for them to lift restrictions in rural. So there is some concerns with that. We had some discussions with Anya, and one of those concerns is going to be essentially, if they're encouraging people because our area is considered more safe, what are we going to do as a community to keep it that way? Are we, if they start to lift some of the restrictions, are we then, or they decide that the VIC centers can open, what will we do with that? And so we're aware there are some communities that are putting their own restrictions, even who's coming in. The MD of Opportunity here in Alberta is actually limiting the people coming in and out of their community. Some of our Indigenous communities have invoked their rights to log people coming in and out. So I just think we need to keep that in the back of our mind. If they do make this move to say we can lift some restrictions out here, we're going to have to make some decisions as to if we're going to do additional regulations as a community. So that's one. Just one highlight I want to bring you from our FCSS. The province had announced additional funding for COVID-related relief in regards to FCSS. Our group did make it in already, so they've applied. We don't know what funding exactly they'll be at, but the initiatives that they had put forward would be falling under some delivery programs, some counseling, and also some youth programming. However, just so it's aware, it's in 3 different areas that you could apply under, and they basically have stopped taking additional funding because even in our area alone, there was over 600 different applications. So they're already well over subscribed. So we don't know what will happen with there, but just wanted to let people know that. Also to let them know that the types of calls that they're getting in, they had done a survey in regards to wanting to know what kind of help people wanted. And there's a vast difference between the calls they're getting and the survey results that they got. So that's something to be aware of. Could be because the survey originally was a little bit more, it was first off in March, where people were assuming that what was going to be needed would be delivery of grocery, delivery of prescriptions. And that's not the call-ins they're getting. And maybe that's kudos to our community because our businesses have already been providing some of those services. So just wanted to bring that forward. And my last thing that I wanted to just stress was that maybe we have to have further conversation about when the mayor goes on again on the radio, talking to people about going out. I saw this last week and I think I sent you guys a text, but I was quite concerned with the difference that I saw. It's great that people are out and they're walking around, but in our stores, they were back to weseeing 2 adults shopping with all their kids, 2 adults shopping together. And it wasn't 1 or 2, it was a lot of violations. So we're going to keep in mind as the spring goes, I think it's going to be harder. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Warwa. And as we move forward here, I would imagine there would be a lot of large urban centers that would like to go to smaller rural places to take advantage of the non-COVID-19 experience. So we should think about this. I don't imagine the province would be hopefully letting smaller municipalities be more open without putting some rules in themselves, but we better be prepared for that ourselves. So thank you. Councillor Rudick, what are you hearing around town?
Well, it's amazing what you can find out from your house, what's happening around town when you're not able to leave. I have a couple of things from FCM. First off, I wanted to say thank you to you for reaching out to our friend Tom Taggart from Bass River in Colchester County. He's a counselor on FCM and a good friend, and it was early in the morning when they started receiving the news of the devastation there. So I appreciate you reaching out. I can't imagine having to deal with all that loss at the same time. There's so much confrontation in terms of safety and schedule, and it's just a lot to deal with. So thank you for making sure that we reached out officially from the town. I appreciate that very much, especially because that's your home.
I started having a conversation with Councillor Taggart at 9 o'clock his time, 6 o'clock our time. And I could tell by the first interview they did with Councillor Taggart, like, you know how big of a presence he is in a room physically, and he just is a big presence. His voice was trembling at 9 o'clock when I turned the TV on here, and I knew it wasn't good. And I reached out to him with a text, and he said, when this comes out, he says it's not going to be good. And and then he only knew what was happening at his place. He didn't know what was going to happen the rest of the day. And yeah, and I kept touch with him all day, and it was crazy.
Yeah, and I think even just reflecting on the conversations that we're having weekly with the FCM Rural and Remote Caucus and some of the things that Councillor Warwa and you just referenced this week on Talk of the Town, the impact of COVID in rural and remote areas is different. And FCM continues to look for examples of what this looks like in rural communities. So they've been tweeting and talking about what it looks like in City of Toronto and the Big City Mayor's Caucus, but they are reaching out and continue to ask for our specific. So I had emailed last week, I believe, about maybe sharing the Lights of Hope parade to their information sources to be able to share that information with the country, or anything that we're doing specifically in our community in terms of application of our usual provision of services and how we're operating in rural communities, because it's extremely important that one size does not fit all. Even the change in business consideration, it still doesn't capture a lot of businesses that, for example, take dividends and don't have an employee payroll, for example. So those people are still not captured in the new version of the business supports that are coming out from the federal government for COVID. But we still need to be able to provide that accurate picture of what's happening real time in rural communities. And so I would ask again that if we're able to share examples from our community, what it looks like, because there are some very specific asks that are coming from municipalities. And our costs are still to come. They're more immediately obvious in a large center, but for us, I think it's going to be a slow, steady pressure that we're going to feel more and more in rural. And if we can try to continue to share both the positive as well as the very real-time challenges that we've got, you know, the number of senior citizens, for example, or the pressures that we're facing with fiber operations, for example. You know, Councillor Lemko's having that issue today, but I've got university students that just finished exams and kid going to school and me trying to work simultaneously should in theory be fine. It is not. And I would very clearly say that I have spent quite a bit of time talking to our fiber provider here. And we use that as an example for business to relocate here because of our high-speed access. And I'm not sure that they've completely made it live. I believe they may have talked about that, but I'm not sure that it's actually delivering what it's supposed to be. So those are two things that FCM again is asking for examples, both positive as well as some of the plain difficulties that we've got with trying to separate workers to continue to have safe working spaces, et cetera, when we don't have a lot of bandwidth in terms of the number of people completing those jobs. I did have a question about the CWEN incentive. We had talked about the mailing out of the checks to those businesses, but I wonder if there's a possibility. I haven't seen a lot in terms of us sharing. The Chamber of Commerce keeps updating their business operations. So whoever has changed their hours or their accessibility and those kinds of things, I'm wondering if we can share some of those things on our social media to make sure that we still continue to champion the good work that the Chamber is putting in a lot of extra effort to make sure that they're supporting businesses right now. And in that vein, I wonder if we're able to do some kind of C1 pronouncement or put a little special effort onto that. And then the other thing I would like to bring up in camera with regards to a specific citizen concern about trespassing. So I'll leave that for later. And then the final thing is when we do our Economic Development Board meeting tomorrow, we talked about short-term wins and some of the things that we talked about, Councillor Brodziak had referenced in terms of advertising both within and without the community. The other thing is business visitation. We can't actually go and see the businesses, but I know that Michelle from the Chamber and Tom from Economic Development had been planning to do business visitation, but I really feel like this is an excellent time to be able to solidify our business directory and make sure that we have accurate contact information, and whether that means that we do a phone tree, go old fashioned, new fashioned, so that we have counselors reaching out to 10, 15 businesses a week, or doing that kind of thing as well. We've really made a concentrated effort to make sure that we're supporting businesses in non-traditional ways. And the town of Vermilion, for example, just put out on their social media about their online business directory and being able to consolidate all business operations in an online directory. So they're able to provide online services and shopping for a variety of different businesses. And I'm not suggesting that we're quite there yet, but something as simple as reaching out to all of those businesses and just see how they're doing and what can we actually do to help. And the other version of that, not just a phone tree in terms of businesses, I wonder what it would cost for us to actually reach out to citizens by mail out. I know that you're on the radio, but we've got a lot of seniors in this community that may not listen to the radio, and they certainly aren't on social media, and we might need to go traditional. Is it worth taking a look at how we can reach out to our citizens, both in the newspaper and or a mail out to them as well, so that they feel connected at this time?
Okay. Thank you very much. Councillor Waters.
Okay, so yesterday the Physician Attraction Retention Committee met via Zoom. And one of the big concerns from the clinic and from our primary care network facility at the hospital is that people with chronic illnesses or have issues that should be dealt with now are not calling in. There are many ways that the doctors and specialists can help you out, be it virtual consults or face-to-face consults on a case-by-case basis. So the physicians are really concerned about that people may be jeopardizing their health in the future because of what's going on. They want to let everyone know that they have enough of the personal protective equipment, that they are ready. So a lot of precautions will be taken, and I will be contacting the clinic to see how as a joint effort we can get this out to our citizens. Do not jeopardize your health. Do call in. There are ways to meet and take care of things like that. Another thing, the physicians and the hospital are doing practice drills, I guess. So they are ready if we are needed with the COVID situation. I don't remember the lifelike dummy's name. I want to say it's Annie, but I'm hoping I'm wrong. Okay, it's Annie. And they're doing the intubations and all of that. They're practicing, they're ready. They have the personal protective equipment. So Vegreville is in a good position for that as well. And also with the amount of physicians, there is on the AHS website now 2 positions available for physicians to apply for our area. So we're just waiting to see what the feedback is for that for rural Vegreville. So Vegreville is ready on the medical side. So please call in. Again, we're going to be discussing how we can get this out to the public. As Councillor Rudick said, there are people that do not have social media and they do not listen to the radio. We may have to go old school, letters, but to the point letters, not a lot of words. It's got to be straightforward. And even the newspaper, we have to bring the newspaper back for some of our citizens here too. So we'll get that figured out. Another thing, I just want to say over the weekend and yesterday as well, I got a few calls about does Vegreville have a fire ban? Because people want their backyard fires. And I said no, but we do need to have proper permits and all of that for your fire pit. So just wondering if we could put something on social media about that. We do not have a fire ban at this time, but you do need the proper permitting for your pits, and keep in mind the social distancing. This is not the time to be asking neighbors over for a wiener roast. I don't know if we want to address something like that as well. And that's all I have for my report.
Thank you. So we'll start with Mr. Casey. You've got something for the round table here?
There you go. On March the 16th, we submitted our application to MSI for the Southeast 17 development from the MSI perspective. And on April 17th, we got notification that the MSI portion of that project has been approved and accepted. So now we're just waiting for the STIP and the ISIP.
And according to Mr. Panda, they were supposed to let me know today.
Okay. That's all I had.
Okay, thank you very much. Phil, what do you got?
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've got a few items here. Just an update on the museum. We're getting some costs in as per council for the facility. We have to wait for the snow to get to be gone with a couple of issues with sewer. So we're looking into that. I'll get an update to council hopefully for next meeting. As per budget item, the new RV Sandy dump will commence work in May. For when the travel restrictions are lifted, we'll have a new and improved Sandy dump, and we will ensure that that is on the provincial map for travelers who are out and about in our province. We got a few quotes, and it was awarded to a local contractor. I met with Anya and Andrea last week, and we had a little brainstorming session on big wins, small costs for the communities, for the community. And I will have a written plan to council for next LEDS meeting on some big wins for the community and with very little cost. So in relation to the art walk, there was also a thought as part of the big wins, doing the art walk, but potentially virtual. That's something I'll be working with Anya on a virtual art walk for the community. letting everybody take part in an art walk virtually. So some great ideas out there. May 3rd to May 9th is Emergency Preparedness Week. Dale and I, as co-directors of emergency management, we've been working with Caleb on some ideas, and we're going to, very similar to the COVID positivity statements, where the Emergency Management Agency, we're going to be putting out some local ads and promoting emergency preparedness within the community, as well as a proclamation. I had a wayfinding meeting with economic development, tourism and culture and communications. And again, we brainstormed some ideas on some small wayfinding projects that will assist the town and our visitors when the restrictions are lifted and they're coming to visit our beautiful town, and how we can get them around the community. So again, once all these great minds get all the ideas together, they'll be compiled for council to review. One item that came up today from the emergency management teleconference, garage sales. So Dale and I talked about this. Basically, the government of Alberta has left it up to municipalities to set the precedent for garage sales within their community. So we're just bringing it up to town council for some input on what they're thinking about how we would react to garage sales within the community. And the last one would be in regards to Councillor Lemko statement on seniors feeling shut in. One idea that was passed by Anya was perhaps like the Lights of Hope parade. Council could do, now that the weather's getting warmer, maybe we could coordinate a small parade past the seniors' homes, maybe just at maybe a slower level. Not that the Lights of Hope parade wasn't slow, but again, just to help the seniors feel needed and wave at them, maybe send them some messages. I've talked to Julie about this, and so we're gonna have Lisa Topilco look at this idea, and maybe we'll come up with something for council now that things are getting nicer. So back to the garage sales. Any thoughts on garage sales in the community from council?
I would be very careful with garage sales. Some people may get petty, accusing people of something that they didn't do, or I'd be just very careful. And Councillor Barry.
Yeah, I think I'd be cautious about that. That's usually a fairly close contract. People are usually handling a lot of things. I just don't know if it's really, you know, the in and outs of it, whether that's something we want to encourage right now, is people gathering at one location and looking and handling and being in close contact. It might be best to wait.
Councillor Lemko.
Yes, that was discussed at our tourism meeting yesterday. It's one of the top, one of the 20 in 20, and that item has been postponed until we can get some clarification, and postponed to the fall, and maybe in collaboration with some other events that we're waiting on to happen. So definitely it's put on hold for now, or postponed till a later date. So I think that might come out in the wash a little bit later on once this cools off.
I like the idea of an acreage sale over a garage sale. It just seems a little more distancing would be available, but maybe there's a format that we could agree on in a huge parking lot, and everybody could have a table, and we could space them out 8 to 10 feet apart as customers roll by. Maybe, I don't know, but then again, we'd be over 15 people, so there's nothing. Whatever you do, I'd be very careful.
Yeah, just we're looking for input from some input from town council, and senior management will come up with a plan for this and present to you.
Maybe a drive-by. People put their tables out and people drive by slowly. Who knows?
Maybe
Okay, thank
first,
you.
maybe the first ever virtual garage sale online, and then people can drop off and door drop off of garage sale items.
Yeah, there's 2 35-cent pieces I picked up. Where are they?
And it costs $2 worth of gas to drop it off. That's all
Hey.
That's all I had, sir.
Thank you. Dale, you're up next.
Okay, thank you.
Where's your NASA headgear?
You guys keep making fun of me, so I took them off. The 2020 Capital Works project is ready for tender now. We'll be sending that out shortly. That's for our water, sewer, and road works. The only difference for us will be that there will be a tender opening. It will be done by a feature, either by Teams or like this, Zoom, something like that, that we can still have them attend virtually for the tender opening. The Southeast 17 design work is rolling along nicely. We'll be doing some soil drilling out there probably this week to add to our engineering information. And I think that we're moving quite nicely along with it. We got little bumps along the way, as you will. It's a large project for design, but there's a good team working on it, and we're making headway. I want to talk about the river forecast. On Thursday, Phil and I have been keeping an eye on it and have been in touch with, hang on a second. Is that working now? Yeah, good. Thank you. The river forecast was at 1.3 meters on Thursday afternoon. Yesterday we're at 3.5, 3.57, and today, this afternoon, 24 hours later, up 4 inches at 3.69. So the river is continuing to rise, but slowly. I spoke late last night with representatives from the flood advisory, and they're monitoring it as well, and they don't expect a huge spike to take off and overwhelm us. It's gradual as we get warmer temperatures. The floodwaters are coming, but the snowpack is also disappearing quickly. So we're hoping that another few days of watching the river and we should be all right. We don't expect any issues. The plaque that we had gotten together, agreed to get for Kay McKenzie, has now been installed. And it's been installed right in front of the town office. I'll try this. I don't know if you can see it. So I've passed that on to Caleb because I'm sure that council will want it sent out to the public for sure. We'll send off pictures of it as well to the family, let them know that it's been concluded, and it's a fitting place for it in front of the town office, as she was the councillor and a mayor for years.
Right up there with Father Vegerville, eh?
She's awful close. She's only about 20 feet away, so. And that's my director's highlights, and I have more information for the in-closed session.
Thank you. Cliff, what do you got?
Actually, Mr. Mayor, if I could just interject for 1 second. I forgot to mention something. The fire department will, a couple of members are going to be burning the tall grass around the edge of the Elks Pond this week. And then we will prepare to fill it up from the river on the weekend. So a communication will be coming out from the fire chief to the public announcing about the burns. So I just wanted to let council know prior to that coming out in the public.
Okay, thank you. Cliff?
I had gone through my items earlier. I have one additional item for the closed session.
Okay, so at this time, I think we're done with regular meeting stuff. So Caleb, if you could take us offline, and we are going to move to a closed session.